Welcome back to the Geekcentric podcast. Today, we're joining you from a galaxy far, far away, also known as London, as we discuss all things Star Wars Celebration 2023. All this and everything else that happened this week in Geek.
Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace.
Hey, it's Nate, and if you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast celebrating the world of movies, TV shows, toys, collectibles, gaming, and all things geek-centric. Joining me for This Week in Geek, we have the Jar Jar Justifier, Justin, the Loth Cat Lawrence.
Meow, meow, motherfuckers. How are ya?
I hope that's the first line we hear from Sabine's Loth Cat in the show. I hope that's the first thing, voiced by Samuel L. Jackson or Samuel L. Lawrence.
Exactly.
I guess. Alongside him, in a hotel room somewhere near me, we have Darcy, the dank ferric Doug Huggin Hudson.
Hello.
How would it?
How do you hug a Doug?
Is that with your
do
legs?
their legs wrap around you?
Yeah. I think
Do I
that's
use
it.
my
You gotta be on your
legs?
hands. Yeah, both of you with your legs wrapped around each other. I think that's how it
I don't
works.
know if I
right?
want to do that. I don't think I want to do
Oh
that.
my god.
Well, as you can
Oh,
already tell, this week's episode is obviously going to be a little bit different as we're discussing our experience at Star Wars Celebration. And things are going to be a little bit all over the place, kind of like Lando after, a few too many spotchkas. But that being said, we're going to be staying on target and discussing the biggest news and trailers to come out of Star Wars Celebration 2023 in the order that they happened. But to kick things off, Justin, I wanted to kind of kick it over to you before Darcy and I discuss our thoughts of the convention, being in London. I want to know, how was it at home? People refer to that as CouchCon. How was the live stage?
Well, it was at some points BedCon for me. 'Cause it
BedCon.
was like 6 a.m.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true.
Or if it might have been Feeding Ellie Con, because I would be literally feeding her and watching Twitter as these things happen. No, but I got to say, there was some great coverage from comicbook.com, IGN, discussing film. I was able to find out the information almost instantly and was able to react really quickly. All while from my bed or feeding my baby. So it was good. And she actually was my alarm clock for all of the days of the convention.
There were some moments we were messaging back and
up.
forth, Justin, and I was like, wow. How...
Yeah. It was like you guys were in line. It's like 4 a.m. and I was like, oh, I'm up too early. So I was the weekend was I didn't sleep that well over the weekend, so only because I was up late and then I was waking up early, sort of thing. But the coverage across the board from those there for the people that weren't able to attend was great. I thought it was fantastic, and it's the supplementary interviews. Like I know that they ran a live stream from the Star Wars live stage with Anthony Carboni, Christina Ariel, Christine Baver. And I believe Jamie Stagroom. I didn't actually watch it because at that point I was going back to bed. I was like going to take a nap. But later I ended up catching highlights from those moments. So like having the entire Acolyte cast on the stage, having Rosario Dawson and Mary Elizabeth Winstead with Natasha Leo Bordizzo on the stage as well, or seeing Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni up on the live stage to share more. I thought it was great that they brought people that were taking part in the panels on the stage. I was able to just catch like the sort of highlight reels of those conversations because they were like 10 or 15 minutes depending on who was on stage. So I think they did a really great job, StarWars.com, just kind of condensing a lot of that so that if you did miss the actual live stream, you were able to follow up. But then, IGN and Comic Book, they did some great coverage after these panels. It seemed like everyone was ushered to the back for press line discussions, and there was a lot of interviews that happened. IGN did a great interview with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, as well as Kathleen Kennedy, talking about, I believe it was on Friday after the big Lucas panel that talked a lot about like the future of Star Wars and the upcoming movies and all that stuff. So yeah, I think it's funny as much as I had the FOMO of not being there and not being able to experience it, thanks to online and maybe some Reddit threads that I ended up finding my way that did spoil some stuff, which is not that bad. It was great. I still felt like I was a part of it. I was still engaged in conversation. I was interacting with a lot of people on Twitter, so I didn't feel left out as much as I thought. So it was good. It was a good experience.
Very cool. I mean, I think, in previous celebrations, I've had the opportunity to attend the live stage. If you check out some of the live streams, if they're still up on YouTube from Chicago, I think. I had my Geekcentric shirt on, and I made sure to get it in the camera.
I just remember you like in some of the footage were like you were standing chest first,
Yes.
so you're like, please look at this logo that's floating in the background of your celebration video.
But I'm a huge fan of Anthony, Christina Ariel. There's a moment where she's great. Hyping up the crowd with Hayden, and Hayden sheds a tear at one point.
That was a great. Yeah, that was great. And the Filoni,
when he takes his hat off, dude.
Oh yeah, but he was crying.
Yeah.
Like he got emotional. He really looked out to the audience. He saw how many people were there. They're thrilled. He understands that, everything that they're doing is for them. It's, I actually rewatched that before recording this because I remember just thinking like that's sort of how I feel about Star Wars fandom in general. It's just so passionate and just I love it so much. And you see Filoni and Favreau and how connected they are with the stories that they're telling and why they're putting in these elements in the storytelling. It just goes to show like it comes from a real sense of endearing love for this fandom and for these stories. So it's can't say enough about Filoni. He's just he seems so down to earth, right? He seems like he like he said he'd be one of the people in that crowd, cosplaying or doing whatever, waving a lightsaber in the air, enjoying this convention with the rest of them. But now he gets to sit on stage and be immersed by this fandom on a whole new level.
I mean, there are people cosplaying him that we saw in line.
Yeah. Trapper Wolf. Did you see some?
Oh yeah.
You see some Trapper Wolf?
Oh yeah, a couple
that's
of
great.
cowboy hats and the shirts with the coats with the little tassels and everything. I think the live stage, as I mentioned, I love seeing it. I think the unfortunate placement of the live stage this time around, we weren't really able to even get close to it. So before we get to talking about maybe getting back to the love, I did just want to kind of cover a few criticisms. We're going to go to the dark side for just a minute here. I think there are a lot of parts about this convention that are worth celebrating. But I think this year's celebration, in my experience, was either oversold in general or Star Wars has just gotten too big for the Excel Center in London, which is crazy because the Excel Center is a really big place, but I guess Star Wars is larger. Would you say that's the case, Darcy?
I don't know. I mean, a lot of it comes down to the fact that this was like very, very, I don't want to say disorganized, but it wasn't planned very well with the fact that the Excel Center is undergoing a lot of renovations currently. So a lot of entrances and other pathways that might be there year round weren't accessible for this trip, which made it seem very like you had one way to go and that's where it caused these traffic jams and clogs. But again, I can't really hold that against Star Wars because that is falling more back on the venue. And when you look at it, the venue, that is probably one of the largest places you can hold it in London. So I don't know where else they could have gone. So it's a really, while it did suck, but it was unavoidable because of how big Star Wars is. In order to get the volume through, you need to go to this center, except the center wasn't prepared for the volume. So it's a little like it's very odd to talk about this because I know it could be better.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think we've been to these celebrations before. This is some of our second or third or fourth celebration. I think the layout is the biggest thing, Darcy, and I think that's the biggest disappointment of the weekend. Was just again how tough it was to move through that main hallway. Now, did it work when a bunch of Narkina 5 cosplayers were running around shouting "one way out, one way out"? Absolutely, because there was only one way they could go. But I think especially after a panel let out. out, it would get so crowded you couldn't move. And Justin, I know you have a bit of anxiety sometimes in big crowds, and I was like, I don't even. It's tough.
I think it's more the pandemic that's built that anxiety. Sure. When you're shoulder to shoulder, ass to ass, crotch to crotch to people, it gets
you're hugging
uncomfortable.
You're hugging like a couple Dougs, and you're not meaning to.
Oh yeah. And the pictures that I saw online, and again, Twitter was rampant with people complaining about the. Again, it's not about Star Wars as much as it is the organization that ReedPop, who does put on these events, and how they would have worked with Excel Center to kind of orchestrate and plan where things are. So I think you're right, Darcy. I think it really does fall on the organizations that are taking part in planning this event, because obviously Star Wars is Star Wars and it is going to draw that much. But it did seem like there was a lot of people, and that, as you pointed out, Nate, in some of those pictures, and as they were saying on Twitter, it seems like it was oversold. For certain day passes, right? Like, I know there was a tough time to get the VIP passes, and there was a tough time to get certain 4-day window passes, but it seems like the day-to-day passes were well oversold by the looks of it. So it's interesting that there was such I guess a hiccup and sort of clusterfuck, if you will, with organizing this convention and this very large. It is a massive convention center. That's bigger than the San Diego Convention Center, from what I was reading. I believe the London Excel Center is twice the size, at 100,000 square meters of space versus San Diego's 57,000 square meters of space. So a lot more room at the Excel Center to house Star Wars fans.
But it definitely, I don't think we were, as you were saying, Darcy, we weren't using that space for this convention, unfortunately, because of the construction, because of what was going on. And I think it was just a matter of timing and of course, everything that's going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of. I think the entire thing felt bigger and smaller all at once. I think the things that we were getting to hear about are huge and massive and amazing, and we're going to be talking about them. But
it's in a
smaller space, right? And especially even like the celebration stage. I mean, in Anaheim, it was like a massive arena. Whereas
I think it held 9,500.
Same in Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even Chicago was an arena.
Remember Chicago?
Massive.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
it was huge.
Like a stadium.
Yeah.
So it was definitely cut down to a big conference room here, to the point where even like the things that you would expect to get big cheers. I was reading somewhere online, someone made a video of Kathleen Kennedy not really getting that many cheers. I'm like, didn't get that many cheers that you could hear on the microphone because it was a smaller crowd. But again, people are going to.
Well, yeah, but that's that shithead fandom that's just finding its way in there, right? Like even on the Celebration Facebook page, people are like, I don't want to complain. You know what I mean? Oh, I don't want to hear about people complaining, but I don't want to complain.
But I'm going to complain.
It's just like, listen, I'm going to complain, right? Like it's so hilarious to read all of this stuff. But yeah, it did look like it was a little overflowing.
Yeah.
And that celebration stage, yeah, like it almost looked like a giant, like more of a keynote presentation. Like,
yes.
Nate, I know you'll know what I mean. Like an Apple keynote would take place in something like that size. Definitely not, a massive thing, which is probably why there weren't as many VIP passes.
Absolutely,
this time, right?
Absolutely.
Like they probably got eaten up a lot quicker. Makes you wonder what's going to happen in Japan.
We'll have to wait and see. But I think, listen, as far as the negatives are concerned, let's move away from there. Let's go from the dark side to the light. I think, I think there's some really, really fantastic parts of Star Wars Celebration in general. And I wanted to start off by saying the staff and security, well, at times they didn't really check badges that often. And you're kind of wondering, do I even need a badge? The staff, as far as directing people, did such a really good job. And the people that were responsible for the lineups and making sure people get, lined up properly. I particularly have to shout out the moment with the security guard, Darcy, at the end of when I think it was the last day that we were there. And he asked, after asking everyone not to run and to go through security check one at a time, he goes, and one more thing. I have spoken. And just got a huge crowd, or cheer from the crowd, and everyone was super stoked. Such a good moment. And again, it's these moments where you're thinking
they had fun with it.
Yeah, these people are Star Wars fans, and they're at one of the best things about Star Wars, and they're doing a job so that all these other Star Wars fans can have a good time. And I think that was one of the biggest things that I noticed. Darcy, were there any other big pluses for you?
I mean, like you said, they were all really happy to be there and were super willing to help if you had any issues or questions and stuff like that. So again, the staff was great, better than, I mean, some of the states cons you've been to where the security guards don't know anything and could care less about what they're doing at this venue. Whereas
Exactly. Yes.
These guys,
exactly.
everyone we spoke to or everyone who was guiding and directing the flow had a smile on their face while they were doing it and weren't yelling. They were just
Yeah.
telling with, the authority that they held in their position. So it was really, they weren't abusing that red vest that they were wearing. They were really down to earth about it. So it was really cool to see that for sure.
When you go to conventions, what is the food you would imagine, Justin? When you go to a convention, what do you imagine?
Oh, well, having been to conventions, it's like pizza, hot dogs, burgers.
Justin, let me tell you right now, shout out to Chosen Noodles for the chicken katsu curry. There were some incredible food options at this Star Wars celebration. I was blown away. Darcy, am I right?
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, we were talking about the XL and all the flaws and stuff like that. One of the things it does have going for it is that main central hall that they kind of funnel everybody through. Between every entrance to the show floor or one of the panel hallways or whatever had a different restaurant on the corner, and there was a Subway, there was several coffee shops, there was again this Chosen Noodle place, you could get sushi. Like there were so many options outside of the fact that they also had several food trucks in one of the halls. So like there you could find food
sick. That's cool.
of different cuisines
Lebanese
from around
food,
the world.
Indian
it was so
food.
great. Yeah.
Oh, so
It
good.
was awesome.
That's
England. Food choices
That's
were-
England, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had some toasties
food
in the
choices were
morning.
great.
I remember I managed to just happen to sneak out of line somehow and got into the main hall before I was supposed to, and I managed to get some breakfast for Darcy and I. And I remember I'm sitting there. I'm halfway through for the first half of my toasty, which for those who don't know, a toasty is like a grilled cheese but British, and it has like beef and onion. It was so good. Anyway, so I'm halfway through, and then I look over at Darcy, and Darcy's handing me the container for his toasty.
I was hungry. It was early and I was
Inhaled
hungry.
it.
Okay.
Inhaled it. So good. I also wanted to just lastly, kind of before we move into talking about the content and all the wonderful things that we got at these panels, I do want to just the content. I do want to shout out probably the best part of Star Wars Celebration, and that is the fellow geeks like us, like you who's listening, who are geekcentric for all things Star Wars. Aside from maybe a little bit of discord over pushing to the front of the line in the mornings, pretty much every single fan was so kind, so courteous, so generous, and so many wonderful conversations in line. Shout out to the local Ollie. I don't know his last name, but shout out to you, Ollie, if you're listening. Wonderful Brit. And then the wonderful groups who there was a group of people who we played 20 questions with at the end on the last day. And of course, Daniel and Divya from Toronto. If you're listening to this, special shout out to you for giving me one of the toughest Star Wars 20 questions I think I've ever had, which was really, really fun. The answer was Bendu, by the way, Justin. So imagine how we got to that.
God.
They were
God.
does it walk on two or what was it? Is it bipedal?
Is it bipedal? Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
and we're like,
no.
what?
They were like, can it fly? And they're like, yes, probably.
It
And
can
it's like,
fly.
okay, hold on a second.
Is it male or female? It might be male. Anyways, so really, really fun. And I think it's so special to be in those lines with people who just instantly vibe with you because of your shared love of Star Wars.
I think that's the biggest highlight that can be taken away is the new friends that you meet, and that's always the fun part, right? Like that's that collective, that celebration, which is why it's called Celebration of Star Wars, together in a safe fandom experience. It's really enjoyable. That is the highlight, right? Apart from everything else, and being in those panels, and getting the content that they're dropping. It all adds to the heightened excitement. So it was definitely great to see you guys connecting with so many people from a distance, and just having those great experiences together.
It was so good, so good. But the main reason we are here was for the big stuff, the panels. So with that said, let's get to the first big panel of the convention. Friday, 11 a.m., the Lucasfilm Studio Showcase. It's a lottery
6 a.m.
to get
for
into
Eastern
6 a.m.
time,
for
just so
Justin.
anyone
Yes,
knows.
it's a lottery to get into these panels, and not everyone were able to actually even attend, whether it be on the Celebration Live stage or whether it be in the Galaxy stage or Twin Sun stage, the streaming stages where you're literally hoping to get into a room just to watch a screen, to watch what, for the most part Justin watched, maybe a little bit of exclusive content. And so it's a huge get to even just get into one of these if you're not a VIP. I think the showcase kicked off pretty well. We had a fantastic, brought a tear to my eye montage of everything Star Wars, movies, shows. And dude, the narration was Nemec's speech from Andor, and I was just like, oh my gosh, so good, so good.
It's a whole new context with that speech, and then you layer in those visuals. I heard someone write about it in one of the articles, one of the millions of articles that I read about that day, they talked about how using that speech, because it's like so fresh and so new, and it's so poignant to what would be the beginning of the rebellion, indirectly, of course. But to see that layered in with these visuals, it really shows how Andor is, it is Star Wars, right? To its core, to its bones, right? So I love that. Well,
speaking of Andor, host Ali Plum, who, by the way, was excellent. If you ever get a chance to look up Ali Plum stuff, he's a fantastic British press person. He welcomed Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy to reflect on the success of the highly acclaimed Disney Plus original series, and they were joined by the series director, creator, showrunner Tony Gilroy, and stars Diego Luna, Adria Arjona, Kyle Solar, Denise Gove, Genevieve O'Reilly, Andy Serkis, Muhannad Baher, and Joplin Sibtain, who was also they were also accompanied, by the way, by B2 Emo. And let me tell you, when B2 came out onto the stage and said, "Hello, London," my heart melted into my shoes. It was so cool. We got to see a now in production teaser trailer for the second and final season coming out in August 2024, which looks fantastic. Let's talk about that. I mean, it was kind of a sizzle reel, a hype piece. Darcy, what did you think of what we got to see of Andor Season 2?
Well, I mean, again, I couldn't really get much context from it. It was a lot of jump cuts of all the characters played by the actors you just mentioned. And it was more just like, this is what they're going to look like in Season 2. And I got to say, the tone that they were setting with that little hype reel, I am on board for the next 4 years that Andor will showcase, because, it looks like it's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, it definitely looked like more Andor, which, I mean, is kind of what you'd expect.
That's
right?
all it was.
That's all it needed to be.
Yeah.
I think they held back a little bit. It goes by pretty fast, but Cyril has a new hat. Vel has red hair. And everyone looks stressed as Ferric, I'll just say. So I'm really, really stoked for it. I think the tone, again, is more Andor, but
they nailed it.
They nailed it, and I'm really intrigued to sort of see how they top Season 1.
Well, I think in the panel they talked about it's really great for them to know where they're going and where they're ending. Gilroy was saying, like, so many shows are still trying to figure that out. They know their ending, so it's about working towards that ending collectively. So the plan and the strategy is all there. What I think is great about the footage, because this is one of the ones that I was able to see through a long list of Reddit threads. It's been taken down since, but I was able to catch it. And you guys are right. It's more or less just like a sizzle reel of Andor shots, like, you know what I mean? And you just get to see what I noticed too, just from watching it, was you get to see a bit of an age progression, because we are going to be jumping through like multiple years. So we see, I think, some of that time passing through some of that footage. But what was really great about one of the first teaser trailers was this inherent, behind the headshots, the way they jump cut that between different characters, both on the rebellion, both on the rebellion and an ISB. The fact that they're really doubling down on their political thriller vibe, it's clear. You see a lot of like these running shots, like of like Andor running with a gun that looks so Blade Runner-esque or Bourne, right? It felt like, okay, I'm ready for more of what they already gave me in Season 1. Let's go. I don't know if it's about topping it though. I don't think they need to top it.
They just need to match it.
They just need to finish strong, right? Like, they need to finish strong and continue the tone. And I think they've learned so much, as they said in the panel. Like, they learned so much from what they did in that first season that it's just inherently built into what they're doing now in the production, right?
So good. So good. Next up, Leslie Headland, creator and showrunner of Star Wars The Acolyte, joined Kennedy on stage. Headland entered escorted by Kel Naka, a Wookiee Jedi from the series, who looked incredible, by the way. We were like, there's a freaking Wookiee on the stage. They offer, basically, we got an overview of the new mystery thriller, which is as follows. The Acolyte will take viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. A former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but discovers the forces they confront are more sinister than ever anticipated. Joining Headland and Kennedy on stage were the series stars Amanda Stenberg, Lee Jung-jae, Manny Jacinto, Daphne Keane, Charlie Barnett, Jodie Turner-Smith, Rebecca Henderson, Dean Charles Chapman, and Star Wars veteran, of course, Eunice Suotamo, who plays Kel Naka. Headland wowed the crowd with a sneak peek of the upcoming show, which also, by the way, stars Carrie Ann Moss and Margarita Lavieva, and is currently in production. The Acolyte will stream on Disney Plus in 2024. I am this probably, in my opinion, I think this was the best trailer of the day. It was absolutely incredible. What a phenomenal way to just set the tone, give us a sneak peek. I think there's like freaking dude. Oh my gosh, Carrie Ann Moss as a I guess a Jedi Master or something like that.
Force user for now,
of some
we'll
kind.
say.
Absolutely phenomenal. I think Amanda Stenberg with her dreads that she's got going on looks incredible, and that final shot of just Jay Jung's character with all the other, looks like Jedi with the lightsabers in the forest.
Yeah.
The show looks
dude.
so fantastic, and the cool thing about it is to me it feels very much like, yes, it's Jedi, but it's a dark tone shift for Jedi because it's focusing on the dark side, and I can't wait.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Watching this footage online, I'm so grateful I was able to, but this was outstanding, and you can really tell, this is going to be a game changer for Star Wars, just like Andor was this past year. I think this series will be a game changer. It's going to give us more Jedi than we've ever had, I think, since, I guess, the prequels. But, like you said, Nate, it has such a dark tone to it, which makes me think that this is obviously from the angle of the dark side, right? Like, that is what it's been pitched as. Maybe they're the heroes or the protagonists of this series, even though we know they are the villains. But, I think what's great is the way Leslie Headland referenced the Frozen Kill Bill vibe
Frozen meets
of
Kill
this series
Bill.
and I think that's a great analogy because, with Frozen, you do get a sense of sisterhood and a connection while also seeing the clashing of the family dynamic at the same time. And I think that that's something that we could see sort of explored in this series through the Jedi and the Sith. And I think, the idea of Kill Bill, the martial arts, like in the moments with Carrie Ann Moss in this thing was just it's new ways to see the force wielding powers used, especially in a time period like the High Republic, where the Jedi are at their highest point of power. We did see the sort of collective Jedi in the prequel series leading up to the Revenge of the Sith. But that said, this show is really going to show the Jedi in their highest prestige of what they are in the galaxy.
Now, Darcy, you're a huge fan of the book series from the High Republic. Would you say this is going to scratch that itch for you?
100%. The fact that they've confirmed that one of the characters or Jedi we will be seeing is Vernestra Rwoh from the High Republic books, it has me so excited. And also, one of the things that kind of irked me about the High Republic book series is the fact that we're getting these blocks set at different time points. And the first block we got was set 200 years before the events of the Skywalker saga. And it sets up this incredible storyline with the Gaze Electric and the Eye of the Storm and all these people like trying to bring down the Jedi. And then they just jump back in time. So I think it's really cool that we're going to be seeing, hopefully, this story picked up and how these enemies in the High Republic weren't working for the Sith, but were then eventually used by the Sith to bring about the Jedi downfall. It is so exciting to be a fan of the books and then see that we're finally going to get some of these books live action, because have so many images in my head of what Vernestra Rowe and all these other Jedi would look like, and now we're actually going to get to see that. I cannot wait.
That Jedi that you mentioned is played by Rebecca Henderson, if I'm not mistaken, and that's actually Leslie Headland's partner, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So
very cool.
If because she has a lot of ins and outs of what's going on with this story. I think in the press line when she was talking with Brandon Davis, she's like, "Oh, I know a lot. You don't want to. I can't tell you anything. Leslie's coming. You can ask her those questions."
Yeah, she'd be sleeping on the couch if that was the case.
But yeah, I think the fact that they're going back and they're able to bring in these elements from the High Republic books that I think are so appreciated by fans, but some of us like myself who follow more of the visual medium, this could be the gateway introduction into the High Republic for me and other fans of Star Wars.
Well, Leslie said some words that made my heart sing as a Star Wars fan. She said, samurai film schools of thought versus lone warriors. She said father-daughter, sibling, master Padawan. And I think that's the biggest thing is normally when we're talking about Star Wars families, we're talking about families that are coming together. And this seems like it might be a story about families clashing and conflicting with each other, which is absolutely fantastic. I really, really cannot wait. Let's keep going here, moving right along here. The Mandalorian. The focus shifted to Star Wars The Mandalorian as Kennedy invited the series executive producers Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni to the stage with huge applause. The duo, along with fellow producer Rick Famuyiwa, were on hand for a discussion of the third season of the hit show, now streaming exclusively on Disney+. Following a special video greeting from star Pedro Pascal, Daddy himself, fans were treated to a clip from next week's episode. Afterwards, stars Giancarlo Esposito, Katie Sackhoff, Carl Weathers, and Emily Swallow joined the stage to announce a special sneak peek screening of the upcoming episode for those in attendance later that evening. And so we had special wristbands on, Darcy and I, and we got to come back later that evening and actually watch more than just 6 minutes. We got to watch the entire episode, which by the time you're listening to this is out now. Such a fantastic episode. We'll be talking about it more with our Watch Club recap episode once the series wraps. But guys, let's just quickly get into this here. I think Dave mentioned during the panel, so many different perspectives and so many different filmmakers are really what make The Mandalorian special. He mentioned they are stronger together, like Mandalorians.
Yeah.
And I think one of the highlights for when they were chatting for me was when Filoni brought up Ahmed Best, and just he's like, he was there the whole time. He works with the younglings. It made sense, and they really paid a good sort of chunk of the conversation to Ahmed Best and his character, which was really lovely to see.
It's nice that they could openly talk about that now that it's obviously been revealed, and it did really hit well. Because that's something that's like 50-50, right? Especially given the toxicity within the fandom at times. But that said, I think everyone has come together to support Ahmed Best on his journey, as he's been very open and transparent about what that's been looked like for him over the past years with Star Wars. And yeah, to see them lovingly talk about it, and even continue that on the live stage, where they did kind of go a little deeper of kind of just affirming, like it makes sense that he would be the one that's there. It's, again, it shows that attention to detail that Filoni and Favreau have, where they can pluck things out that, could be, yes, a Luke Skywalker, right, for your finale of who's going to train Grogu of season 2, or, in this case, the most likely person that would take care of Grogu and ensure his safety.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think giving flowers, it was nice to see, again, I think Dave Filoni, they all gave him a lot of flowers and gave him a lot of praise for his work. But I also really loved how they sort of followed that up with mentioning that Rick has been a part of the series since episode 1 and really been there for pretty much every single episode of the series, and he's been such a big part of the show. And I love, there was a brief moment where Dave took his hat off and put it on Rick, and he looked fantastic. He should think about adopting that style.
He could pull that style off, no problem. I think it's so great to hear Filoni talk about the directors as fans themselves of the franchise and the storytelling that comes out of Star Wars, that they want to bring it together, and the analogy that they are a clan of Mandalorians in the sense that they're telling the story is such a good poignant way of highlighting, the collectiveness that they have, their creed being Star Wars, if you will, right, and whatnot. So, but to see Rick and to get his flowers, like you said, it's great because he has been a huge part, and he's obviously very important to executing this season of The Mandalorian.
He's doing the last 2 episodes, I believe. So the one,
he did 7. He did
happened,
the one we've already watched, and he's
now
doing the finale this week.
The finale. Oh, so excited, so excited. Darcy, did you have anything you wanted to mention before we move to the next one?
Not really. You guys said it all. It was awesome seeing them talk about this type of stuff. I mean, the fact that they were happy that they were able to keep the whole Ahmed Best appearance under wraps until that pop, I think really helped make it land so much more to see him go through that. So it was really cool to him to talk about that. And again, like you said about Rick Famuyiwa, seeing how he's starting to be included as one of the guys who's been there since the beginning and cares just as much as Favreau and Filoni. So it's really awesome. The 3 Fs, they rock it out of the park. So
exactly. Favreau, Filoni, Famuyiwa. That's great. That's great.
Get that on a T-shirt. Let's go.
I like that. I like that. The only 3 Fs I want together. I think the other thing too is that given that Filoni, as we'll get to the news, but when Filoni goes and does his movie, Rick will probably be able to help steer the ship if there's anything going on in the series side, right?
Oh, yeah.
From that standpoint. And I think everyone will come together, right? Like is going to come together for, to ensure that their best story iteration of what they're trying to achieve is materialized in the theater when Filoni gets to direct that movie.
Well, the theater is a little bit a ways away. Let's keep talking about the streaming side of things. Next up, Jude Law, star of the upcoming Disney Plus original series Skeleton Crew. Jude Law was in attendance. I was blown away. Took the stage to officially introduce his young co-stars, Ravi Kabat-Conyers, sorry if I'm butchering any of these, Kariana Crater, and Robert Timothy Smith. The series also stars Ryan Kiera Armstrong, who was unable to attend Celebration, but the team shared insights about the series, their characters, and to the delight of all, we got to see a sneak peek of the series, which is currently in production. Skeleton Crew follows the journey of 4 kids who make a mysterious discovery on their seemingly safe home planet, then get lost in a strange and dangerous galaxy. Finding their way home and meeting unlikely allies and enemies will be a greater adventure than they ever imagined. We're going to be getting this from showrunners John Watts and Christopher Ford, and then executive producers along with Favreau, Filoni, Kennedy, and Wilson. We're going to get some directors, including John Watts, again, Christopher Ford, David Lowery, the Daniels, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, Jake Shear, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Lee Isaac Chung. Skeleton Crew will stream exclusively on Disney Plus in 2023. Let's talk about the Skeleton Crew footage, or I guess teaser that we got to see, the now in production teaser. I think Kathleen Kennedy mentioned Amblin vibes, and boy, howdy, did we get Amblin vibes. Like, to the point where there is an actual suburban neighborhood in Star Wars.
I didn't see. No one. Someone did post it, but then it was taken down, and then some stills circulated. So I did see this suburban area, and it kind of threw me for a loop. But then when everyone seemed to have really talked about with the Amblin vibe, the Goonies adventure, if you will, and
so good.
Then a lot of people were saying like a very Stranger Things kind of vibe.
Do they have space bikes? Like, do they have little speeders that are like little? They have to pedal
and then
them.
what is their synth music sound like for that era, right? Like, I think though that what's nice about this panel and them presenting all of this stuff is we're seeing different type of genre styles within the larger genre that is Star Wars. You got your Kill Bill, Frozen, I would say even more True Detective vibes with Acolyte, right? You got Mandalorian, which is your Western, and then you have, this kid's adventure here. You're really getting a breadth of all of what Star Wars is being imagined for its future that does now inherently feel different from the Skywalker saga, right? It'll always connect back to that saga, but like, it's so nice to see, this is going to be a little different. I think this is because a lot of people were saying that the suburb threw them for a loop, but what does that look like? Like that hasn't been explored. Why can't it be explored at the same time, right? Like, why can't it be explored? So I think it's really cool to see what they're doing. And their directors list is like some of the best. Like, yeah, you got the Daniels, but you got David Lowery in there, right? And it's just, I don't know. Like, I think that with everyone that they've brought in, again, it's going to be interesting to see how these directors connect to these stories as being not just fans of Star Wars, but maybe fans of these kinds of genre stories, the adventure stories, the coming of age stories, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I think this series is gonna be really cool because it's showing us a side of Star Wars we've never seen before, and it's, to me, I've always wondered what it's like to be an average Joe or someone growing up in this universe, and it's gonna be really cool to explore that with this cast.
Yeah, more than a broom boy.
I am also curious because, again, we don't have much timeline reference for this series, so seeing Jude Law as a Jedi Master who is, kind of taking these kids on this crazy
I wish they
adventure.
didn't reveal that, though.
I love it. That, to me, because
Yeah.
I was worried that he was going to be the
hype
big villain of the series. So
No,
getting that reveal that we will have a
Well,
Jedi
yeah.
guiding these kids was such an exciting moment. And I'm so stoked for this show. Like the streaming services shows they've got coming for us are all sound incredible.
We're gonna
and I cannot
eat
wait.
well. I'm gonna feel like.
yeah.
I'm going to feel like you guys after that con, I'll be wanting to sit on my bidet to just clean it out and reflect.
I don't know what he's talking about, listeners, but I will say, dude, I think you really nailed it, though, Darcy, when you mentioned like the idea that like kids, right? This is following kids outside of young Anakin and Kitster. We haven't really gotten young kids.
Broom boy, man.
The Broom boy. Okay, whatever. These kids are so young. Ali Plum was asking them, what's sort of some of the first memories that they ever had of Star Wars, and one of the kids mentioned that he had a Star Wars onesie as a baby, and like that was one of his memories. I'm like, these kids are pretty young if they're remembering their first onesie. I think it's cool, the idea that dads and brothers inspired some of these kids, along with Princess Leia, of course, being the inspiration for one of them as well. And I have to say, a little child Ortolan, like a little kid Ortolan, Max Rebo looking character. I don't know if he is an Ortolan or not. He looks like it, though.
He is, apparently. That was
so
confirmed.
Freaking stoked for that, because you see this little kid, he's adorable, he's so cute, but he's got this little, in the stills that we saw, the production stills, he's got the sort of avatar headband thing on for performance capture.
The behind the scenes stills. Yeah, those were
stoked.
available online pretty readily, and it was clear that there was going to be some CGIing that was going to happen. But I think it's great that they're going to mix the diversity of like the species of kids, which I think is really great. But going back to the reveal of Jude Law as a Jedi, yeah, it would pop off. He is going to be a Jedi. It's great to hear that he is a Jedi. I would have liked, though, if they had left that for the show to be the reveal, where it could have been a bit of the mystery of who is this spaceman, and then it is sort of revealed that he is a Jedi, because I know that a lot of people were saying that about Luthen in Andor. That reveal that he's a Jedi that's in hiding. I think it would have been cool to see that. I thought the timeline was pretty definitive. It's happening during the Mandoverse. Like it's happening in this pocket of.
Yeah, I think we've heard that.
We don't know where, obviously, but
Yes,
it's happening in there.
yeah.
It's happening in that time frame, because they like when we get to, obviously, again, the news of Filoni directing a movie connected to all. He has referenced that some things from Skeleton Crew would tie into that, into the larger story of that. So Ahsoka, Mando, Skeleton Crew, who knows what else they come out with within that time frame or pocket of time that could feed into the larger film that they're trying to create like a massive event with.
Yeah, I think there was a pirate from the Mandalorian series. I'm not remembering his name. I know it starts with a V, Vel or Ven or something like that. Vane. I think he's going to be in this Skeleton Crew show, which I think is really, really cool, because we know that he dipped in Mando. So yeah, I am so stoked.
They didn't get
for
a
this.
ship.
I think it's
They
gonna be
didn't
a lot
get
of
him
fun.
at the end.
They
of
didn't
it,
get
Mando?
him. He
he
got
flew
jumped
away.
out.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
But let's keep going here. Transitioning to, I think, this year's most highly anticipated Star Wars series. Favreau and Filoni confirmed that Ahsoka, starring Rosario Dawson in the title role, will premiere exclusively on Disney Plus this August 2020. 2023. Set after the fall of the Empire, Ahsoka follows the former Jedi Knight Ahsoka Tano as she investigates an emerging threat to a vulnerable galaxy. Dawson took the stage and unveiled a teaser poster for the series, after which she was joined by co-stars Natasha Leo Bordizzo, who plays Sabine Wren, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who announced that she will be playing Hera Syndulla. Which got a huge cheer from the crowd, and Justin, when he was at home, he woke up his baby. The presentation concluded with a new teaser trailer for the Disney Plus original series, which we're going to talk about that trailer. We're going a bit out of order because we also did attend a Saturday Ahsoka panel, Darcy and I, and let's just say there was a recut trailer with a little bit of extra footage that we'll be sure to be chatting about. But let's start with that trailer. Just the words at the very beginning, "Something's coming, something dark, I sense it," reminded me so much of the first trailer we got for The Force Awakens. Just the narration at the beginning. And I'm really, really amped for this. Before I go off and just talk about all this stuff, Darcy, I want to know, what were your thoughts of this, both of these trailers?
Well, I mean, first off, it was incredible to see these characters we know so well from the animated series fully fleshed out in live action. Sabine and Hera are fan favorites, obviously, for so many obvious reasons. It's really cool to see how they've really took the time to bring these characters to life properly. But then that reveal of first the back of his head, and then in that recut trailer we get to see the face. Oh, buddy, this is something we've been waiting for so long. That Thrawn is finally coming to live action.
Little behind the scenes here, Darcy. We have to get up super early to get to any of these panels.
God,
even to get to even for this one. This was a streaming stage one that we got, where we sit in a room and watch a screen. We had to wake up at like 5 a.m. just to get there. And Darcy was kind of nodding off a little bit. And so thank goodness they did the one more time. They streamed the trailer one more time for us. But I remember you were just sitting there and you were like asleep. And then you kind of, oh, who was it? And I was asking you, who was that? Who was that? And you're like, I don't know. I don't see it.
I don't know. I was like half asleep. I was dozing off because they were taking their time I found with that panel specifically, that they were kind of spreading it out and taking their time talking about anything they could find before they could do that big trailer drop at the end. So I will be honest.
And this is for the Saturday panel, correct? This is you're
Yes,
talking about.
This is Saturday morning.
Yeah. The specific Ahsoka panel. I heard from some people that it seemed like they did kind of stretch it out, because the day before they had some reveals, they were just kind of treading on those reveals already, and then they gave you obviously this lovely new mixed supercut, which did see that one on
How'd you do
Reddit
it?
thread. On the Reddit thread, man. I'm so grateful for those people that leaked those things. The idea that the panel kind of stretched itself, because the big reveal was that mixed footage and the announcement of Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn. I think that
So good.
everyone knew it was going to happen. I was on the boat though after Friday when we saw the back of the head, that I'm like, could it be Alan Cummings? Could Alan Cummings be playing Thrawn? Because it looked like him from the back of the head, just the way the hair was shaped and stuff like that. But there are some people on Twitter. Brian Ward, I think his name is. He's like an illustrator, graphic designer, and he loves Star Wars. But he took that clip. He took Mikkelsen's head, even though it was front facing, and reversed it to sort of line it, and it lined up perfectly. And then the next day they dropped the news, and like it was pretty crazy. Good job, buddy. Good job.
Some ear forensics. Get this guy a job at New Rockstars. Just getting back to the trailer. I think Morgan Elsbeth is going to be playing a bigger role. She was in attendance.
Sure.
The actress who plays her was in attendance at the convention. And we start off by seeing Ahsoka fighting Morgan's Corvus droids. And I'm wondering the location that she's in. I'm wondering if it's Biss or Tython. But I will say the trailer looked like we're going to be going to a lot of places that we've never seen before in Star Wars. And I think that makes me really excited. I think there's a lot of visual theming of maps and things like that. And I love that she did the spin with the sabers like she did in the final episode of Clone Wars. I was just so pumped that they were able to pull that off. So good.
Well, I honestly think that the trailer kind of sets up some reveals for us returning to a world between worlds, like we did in Rebels. I think it was the 4th season, because when she lands in that temple, you can see the etchings of those starry system on the stone walls.
Ooh.
And inevitably later in the trailer, we will see her lighting a saber in what looks to be a world between worlds. So I think we're going to be revisiting that. That might be a key to how we get Ezra back, in my opinion. Like, I think she's going to return the favor, if you will, by trying to go back in time to help Ezra and get him back, because he did it for her, right? And saved her.
I don't care about Ezra. Chopper in live action again for the first time since Rogue One. No, I do care about Ezra. It's cool to see a little version of him, which I think is maybe a hollow message, like it's not live or anything like that. But getting to see Chopper with his blah, 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 and Mary Elizabeth Winstead in live action, Hera Syndulla flying the Phantom, just looked absolutely phenomenal. And the music, can I talk about those strings? I think it was Kevin Kiner was announced as the music, as the composer. And he's just been creating some of the best Star Wars music lately. Between him, Joseph Shirley on the Mando Season 3, Nicholas Britell on Andor, Star Wars music is just like its narratives, in that it is fantastic across the board when we get so many different voices and influences involved. Seeing Genevieve O'Reilly show up as Mon Mothma, Chancellor of the New Republic, was really, really cool. Darcy, live action Lothcat, are you stoked?
I mean, I'm kind of stoked about that. I'm also very stoked about Sabine wielding. Is that Ezra's lightsaber?
It looks like it.
Yeah.
Like
she's
the fact that we're getting a lightsaber wielding Sabine again, without the darksaber being mentioned at all, is just so cool. I cannot wait to see what the story behind that is, and again, the journey to find Ezra, because that's what we're all going to watch for. We've got all the Ghost crew now live action except for him. Bring him to the screen, please. I want to know what happens.
Yeah, because I think the biggest standout for the tone of the trailer and the remix version with the heightened is a level of mystery and like thriller-esque detective style. There seems like there's this obviously like this larger mission that's at play, while there's also a larger threat. The word drop of heir to the empire, I think is a huge indication of the source material inspiration, especially given the fact that Filoni has talked about working with Timothy Zahn, the creator of Thrawn, and to help materialize that character in the most honest way for a live action adaptation. I think again it's all just a really good mixing of bringing it in, and I'm glad that both Filoni and Favreau have gone on the record now over this celebration weekend to say like, yeah, we're pulling things from all over, and the stuff that's extended that is no longer canon, they're putting their hands in there. They're putting their hands in there. They're grabbing things and they're pulling it in, and I love that they're able to do that. That's sort of the level of trust that Kennedy has with them, that they can go back to that extended and say, okay, yeah, we're going to bring this over, because that makes the most sense, right? You can't make it all Star Wars canon, leave some of it outside and just bring it back in as it makes sense for the stories that you're telling. And I think that's why, we're going to see a lot more of that happening in a lot of ways.
Well, I mean, Dave's been doing that with Timothy Zahn's Thrawn since Rebels, and
yeah, exactly.
It's going to be no different here, and even better that it is Lars Mikkelsen. I also want to shout out the new orange sabered, Force users that we got: Balin Skoll, played by Ray Stevenson, and Shin Hati, played by Ivana Sakno. New Rockstars did a really wonderful comparison here where they mentioned Skoll and Hati. Hati, if you're a fan of God of War Ragnarok recently, you'll recognize those names as the two wolves from Norse mythology, responsible for the cycle of the days, sun and moon. Did you guys notice Shin's Padawan braid? I was so stoked to see a Padawan braid there, which gives me the idea that maybe they, especially with the series being about Ahsoka, maybe they aren't necessarily dark side users. I mean, they've got orange sabers, not necessarily red sabers.
I think this might be just an exploration of the gray Jedi. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think we might be exploring that a little bit more in this series, especially given the fact that our story is around Ahsoka, who is, she ain't no Jedi. So I think that's also another part of that exploration.
Just a couple of things I really wanted to quickly mention just before we move on here. Yes, Darcy, you mentioned it earlier. Sabine with what looks like Ezra's saber, but also a speeder bike scene on what looked like the Lothal highway from the first episode of Rebels was so... just made my heart sing. And then, I mean, come on. The Purgle near miss at the end with the giant Purgle flying up. I mean, if we were happy to see a shadow of a Purgle before, I cannot wait to see, a full-blown group, maybe a full group of Purgles right on the screen as they start to look for Thrawn and Ezra. So freaking stoked.
Yeah, to see the Purgles at the end of that hype reel was pretty outstanding. But it also, like, again, there's another layer to this. I think we might be doing some flashback. I'm seeing Sabine with short hair, long hair. It's throwing me for a loop. I'm wondering if I'm wondering if we're going to see kind of like where they left off versus where they are. Sort of a Lost sort of thing where, we're kind of time jumping. I know, Nate, you get a little chubby when you get that Lost going. So it's like,
give me flashbacks, dude. Well, and especially the fact that it's flashbacks to things in Rebels that maybe we didn't get to see, right?
Right, but we like last Celebration, you guys saw the footage of her Sabine standing in front of the mural. Like that is how Rebels ended. But just to go off of what we were talking about, hearing the news that Mary Elizabeth Winstead is Hera, I think this is fantastic. She's going to do such a great job. I'm excited to see her more mature, still very very talented pilot persona, but she's been matured. And do we see Jason? That's the biggest asterisk. Kanan and her son. But also, you guys mentioned Sabine with the lightsaber. It's going to be really interesting to see her wielding this lightsaber, as you mentioned, Nate, given her experience with the Darksaber and how that all plays into it. So yeah, like I have a lot of questions after seeing not just the extended footage, but the actual trailer. Like I'm very excited to see how they, bring Ahsoka's next chapter to live action. I will say though, I have started my Rebels rewatch. I would love to know from Disney, what's the stats on people clicking rewatch right now on that? Like Rebels must be getting a massive uptick, especially after this weekend. Cause I was like, after this weekend, I was like, oh yeah, I am starting my Rebels rewatch and I'm almost done season 1. So it's like, I'm ready to go. And there's 4 seasons. I might watch it twice between now and Ahsoka.
And I mean, Filoni did a great interview with IGN, just shouting out IGN again, where, I think it was asked, the question was, do you need to watch Rebels to understand Ahsoka? And he very, very clearly said,
of
no,
course.
you don't,
Yeah,
but it
of course.
definitely adds to it.
But see, my thing is that when you ask a filmmaker that question, right? Especially when it comes to Star Wars, the natural answer is no, of course not. You don't need to watch it, right? Because you'll get the pieces that you need throughout. Like they're not going to say specifically you have to, right? They're not even saying that you have to watch the Book of Boba Fett to understand The Mandalorian season 3. But realistically, we all know you kind of do. If you left at season 2 and they were apart and suddenly they're back together, you're like, did I miss something? Yes. You missed a season about another Mandalorian where we told the story about this Mandalorian. Like, it's just, it's so funny. So I don't know if it's really a point of asking that question, because the natural response is always going to be no, because these should be siloed as their own. And I think that's why we will get those flashbacks. We will get those moments for the larger audience that is being introduced to Ahsoka through this series. But that there is going to be a ton of if you know moments that are going to call back to Clone Wars. They're going to call back to Rebels, and they're going to call back to for the fans who did pay attention and did watch the animated series or grew up with it. So
I love the Fast and Furious style moments where it's been a long time or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the only person
good.
we didn't see is Zeb, but we know he's coming.
He's got to be there.
And like you guys said, like you guys got the hit of Mikkelsen in that remix. I do think the reason why there wasn't a press photo, it wasn't put in the original trailer, is because they're saving that for the finale of The Mandalorian, whether that's an end credit stinger or something along those lines, because inevitably that's going to happen, and then everyone's going to be on the loop, right? So now that they've got the confirmation of who's in act, that's kind of why I think they've reserved it. But I also heard some of the visual effects in the extended one that you guys watched were not like finalized, like they were presentable, if you will, but some of it looked a little rough in areas.
Sure, but Lars looked phenomenal.
He looked spot on. Yeah,
he looked
exactly.
phenomenal.
They could
the red
be,
eyes.
I heard that there could be working on nailing a different kind of blue as well. Like that might not be the final blue that they are settling on, but they might tweak the blue.
It was a bit too Blue Man Group for the
That's
Thrawn
what I
love,
was
more sky blue or pale blue
Yeah.
that we know from Rebels particularly. But again, it was the fact that we got that confirmation and that it is Lars Mikkelsen returning to the role.
Let's
was the big
go.
pop.
Yeah.
It's funny. That morning we were in line talking to Ollie, our British friend that we met over there, and we were talking about who we think could play it. And I was like, I can't picture or at least hear anyone other than Lars Mikkelsen because he did such a good job in the series. And he was mentioning, Benedict Cumberbatch would be a great option. And while that did excite me, getting the confirmation that it is actually Lars Mikkelsen was so much more rewarding because we're familiar with him already, and it's just another chance for him to bring this character to life in a new way. And it's so exciting to be a Star Wars fan right now.
So good. But let's get to what's coming in the future, maybe far future. Just before we do that, there was a short, brief moment where we got to look at the past. We got to see a wonderful tribute to the incredible work of Oscar-winning creature and special makeup effects supervisor Neil Scanlon. Dozens of his most famous creations took to the stage, along with we've got like one of the original Yoda puppets. We saw all of them there. Some of the creatures from The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and the prequel trilogy as well. Just looked absolutely fantastic. The only thing I was thinking, I'm like, I would have loved to have spent 9 million hours and drained my full phone battery and then drained Darcy's full phone battery, taking pictures up close and personal
Didn't they spread them out,
with
though,
them.
across the floor?
They were just on the just on the stage.
I know
for
the Tauntaun
moment.
was on the floor. I know they
We
had
did
some
get
of
a
like
Tauntaun. Yeah, we get it.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that they had like a couple like setup moments where it looked like these were actual props and characters from the movie, but they didn't do like the whole Mando experience that they did last year.
Would have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been cool. Yeah.
But then, listen, we got the hugest news. Kennedy revealed that Star Wars will head into the future with a new feature set 15 years after the last events of the Skywalker saga. Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy will tell the story of rebuilding the new Jedi Order and the powers that rise to tear it down. The director then delighted fans by welcoming Daisy Ridley to the stage, confirming she will be reprising her beloved role as Rey in the upcoming movie. We got that. Let's stop right here. Let's talk about that really quickly. Super exciting to have Rey back. Daisy looked like she was through the moon, excited to be just continuing on with Star Wars. And I think Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, I'm really pumped and amped for her kind of to be taking that on, and to just kind of see the graphic that we got of seeing the new Jedi Order as the next phase, if you will, was really, really cool. And I kind of like the direction of this. They're not coming out and saying this is the next trilogy. They're just saying we got a new film on the horizon.
Yeah, and I think that's the smart way to go about it. Like they can't shoot themselves in the foot and say like we're starting a new trilogy and this is going to be the first one. That sets too many expectations. I like the idea that they're focusing on just wanting to tell at least this story and then they'll see what's next. I'm interested though. Like I love that Daisy Ridley's coming back. I'm just interested in the idea of wanting to tell a story 15 years after, especially given the fact that she was kind of the end to the Skywalker saga. Right? So are we going to be continuing that? How much of the influences from the Skywalker saga are going to find their way in there? There's just a lot of questions versus the other two movies that were announced that seem a little bit more outside of all of that. However, you have this outstanding filmmaker as talented as Sharmeen. So that is a big draw for me into this, as well as the fact that Daisy Ridley is coming back. So I'm generally interested. I'm intrigued. My biggest question though is, do they get John Boyega back? Because like Slash Film said it best, like John Boyega does not need Star Wars, but Star Wars needs John Boyega. And like I could see Kennedy having a very serious conversation with John Boyega, and wanting to bring him back as part of it, because they like, again, as part of the closure to the Rise of Skywalker, they were that family unit that we left with, right? And Poe as well. So like, yes, we have Rey. Are we going to get those other characters back? Are we going to see them come back? Are we going to see BB-8? Probably BB-8, right? Like, of course we're going to see BB-8. More toys and stuff.
I hope he's like a Rusty, and he's kind of like almost
I
sort
hope he's
of
like Chopper.
salty.
He's
Yeah,
just
kind
like
of like
super,
a Chopper.
he's just
BB-8.
grumpy and shit,
So
and he's just
good.
like, I got to take care of these kids and stuff. But like, I don't know. I just think that, given where we left things off in Rise of the Skywalker, the sense of closure, I don't know. It seems like you can't not revisit those things, but I guess, I don't know, maybe something drove them apart. I don't know. So,
I mean, my biggest thing I'm looking forward to is the arguments that the fandom that we know they will have, in the fact that, is Rey truly a Jedi? Because people are right now, people are even arguing that, is Luke a true Jedi master? So what are they saying about Rey, who had probably even less training than Luke did, and now she's going on to start her own thing? It's an interesting time to be exploring, and I am looking forward to it, because I like Star Wars, so more Star Wars stories is always good.
oh, for sure, I totally agree. But I'm just worried that are we just gonna get, like, again, like the George Lucas poetry aspect, where it's like, one of her pupils goes to the dark side, then she's got to, like, she ends up falling victim to that, and that destroys. We saw it with Luke and Ben. We didn't even really see it, like you said, like it's all fed to us through expositional parts in Nate's favorite Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi. But how are we how are we going to see something that's going to be maybe different from what has been done? But that still also kind of calls back, right? Because I'm all about, like, the cycle of things continuing, but again, it's like, how are we gonna layer that in and make it different at the same time? But it's interesting because this is I guess the farthest out in the timeline that we are getting, while also hearing James Mangold's going to be doing the very first, biblical style, Passion of the Jedi style movie.
I like that idea. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest difference with this upcoming movie set 15 years into the future is Charmine's directorial capabilities, and I think that's going to be really refreshing. And I do think that they are going to. I think they're going to give us something different, and I'm really looking forward to those first takes of the trailer or the teaser that maybe we'll get to see in Tokyo. Probably not that early, but Kennedy also announced, that James Mangold will take audiences deep into the past, telling the tale of the first Jedi to wield the Force and harness it as a liberating power in an era of chaos and oppression. Darcy, I think this is right up your bag here. Obviously, we were just talking about your love of the High Republic. This looks like it's going past even earlier than the Old Republic.
Dawn of the Jedi.
How far are we going back?
25,000 years.
Yeah.
25,000 years before the Skywalker saga. So this is, again, completely uncharted territory, even in the expanded universe. So it's just, there's so much potential here to tell a completely new story that will set up everything else that we've already enjoyed. And
Passion of the Jedi. I'm telling
the fact
you, man.
the fact that we are set, this the show is, or sorry, the series of Star Wars is, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. We're going further back than that. Will there be starships? Will there be space travel? Like, is this going to be a primitive single planet story that then leads to this,
Are we on Earth?
starfaring enterprise that is the Jedi? Like, it is so cool, and I'm so excited that this is coming up for us, because, again, wholly original Star Wars is not something that we get a lot, because Filoni and Favreau are so inspired by the expanded universe, that this story seems like it is going to be an entirely fresh take on what it means to be a Jedi.
But have the seeds already been planted throughout Star Wars already that go back? Like, I think we're going to be going back to Octu, right? The symbol that they use for the Dawn of the Jedi, the time period that James Mangold's story will be focused in, is the same symbol that was in that temple that he and Luke and Rey sat around, of the Jedi in the dark and the light. And I think that that's very much where we're going to see the beginnings of that. But also, like, I know in Clone Wars, I think it was season 3, they did that whole Anakin story where he goes to, I think it's I think it's called Atlar of Mortis, where it's the father,
The father, son and brother, or father,
The
brother,
daughter.
daughter type thing.
Mhm.
yeah, and talking about that, like, are we going to see sort of, that story? Because like they seem more spiritually connected in Clone Wars. Do we see them as actual, people before they kind of transcend, and become something more? I don't know. It's obviously, I just feel like there's already been some stuff that's already hinted at this, and it's really refreshing, like you said, though, that there's going to be a new take and a new approach. But I still think they can still pull from what we've already gotten in Star Wars canon and lore, for sure.
But I love the idea that we're going so far back that ships might not float. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ships might not even take off. Is this going to be on one planet? Do we see the invention of the lightsaber? What are the weaponry that they're going to be using? And I think that's such a wonderful way that James Mangold can give us a really fresh take on what we know as Star Wars. And maybe it's going to say, a long, long, long time ago. And then we keep adding more longs as we go along. But listen, expanding upon Star Wars storytelling in the present, Dave Filoni is going to get his own movie as a director.
Not animated.
No, we were hoping it was animated, but still really cool. He's going to be orchestrating the escalating war between the Imperial Remnant and the fledgling New Republic. Alongside producer Jon Favreau, they are going to bring together many of the threads of the Star Wars original series in a cinematic event. So this could include pretty much anything from the Mandoverse, Mandalorian, Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Maybe the kids from Skeleton Crew are going to be somewhere in here as well. And I am so excited for this. Is there anything specific that you guys think? Is this going to be? Do you think? One thing I was wondering: do you think this is going to be a cap for these series, or is this just a major event, and then we might be seeing more seasons down the road of Mando or Ahsoka or what have you?
Well, I shake my head, but then at the same time, I don't know, because I think it could be, but then that means that this would be very far out. This movie is very far out. Like, one thing to really preface with all these movie announcements, there was no dates that were announced. There was no thing. This is just, we are bringing Star Wars back to the theater,
No titles.
the theaters. Yeah, no titles. No, there was very little details other than filmmakers that are attached to it. And based on the news that's been coming out with Star Wars leading up to Star Wars Celebration, with movies being canceled, that with these new announcements, it sort of feels like I'll believe it when I see it. It sounds really cool. All of it sounds really great. But at the same time, we know that Tremaine's story is being worked on heavily. James Mangold's story hasn't been written. I think Filoni's story has obviously been mapped out, but has there really been a draft of a script? So they're all at different phases of production. And while in an interview on IGN, Kathleen Kennedy actually said, a lot of the movies that were canceled, they're not necessarily canceled, they're shelved. And apparently Kevin Feige, he had an idea, but it never materialized to anything. But then we also know that Michael Waldron was working on a script, so it's all a little confusing. Again, there's just a lot of uncertainty about where these movies will inevitably land and how they will land. But to give Filoni a movie and to know that was very much built into the larger story of what they were doing with Mandalorian, because in that same interview on IGN with Kathleen Kennedy, she said, this has been 10 years in the making, getting Filoni to be a director to direct a movie. By giving him all this experience on set through the TV series, allowing him to kind of learn from every single filmmaker that he had the opportunity to work with, having Filoni direct something in the theatrical space really does celebrate Filoni and give him his flowers for all the work he's done in Star Wars. Whenever this movie comes out, it's fantastic news to hear that Filoni will be credited as a director of a Star Wars movie.
So excited for all of it. I think Filoni deserves that and more, and I can't wait to see everything this guy does in the future. Mangold, being the filmmaker or the director behind Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, stayed on stage to wrap up the Lucasfilm panel. We got to see a never-before-seen, final trailer, and then an extensive look at the film and a new poster. Obviously, we're going to try to keep things to Star Wars, but really quickly, I will just say the look that we got at the film, I think it was about, what was it, 6 minutes or 8 minutes or something like that.
6 minutes, I think.
And it was Indiana Jones as Indiana Jones could be. A chase scene through the streets of Tangiers, Indy, Helena, and then some kid. They're on a tuk-tuk and they're driving through the city, and to me, I was saying to Darcy as soon as the footage wrapped up, I'm like, I felt like we were just on the ride. Like it felt like a ride at Disney of them just like, no, turn here, and like, no, and just dodging all this stuff. And I'm
when
super
you watch it
excited.
out of context.
Oh, it's so good. So good. But that was just Friday. We're almost through this entire podcast. But we, obviously Saturday was the Ahsoka panel. We already covered that. Sunday we had the Disney Parks panel. Darcy, anything you want to shout out from the Disney Parks panel?
I mean, just the fact that we're getting new Star Tours is probably the biggest takeaway for me from that thing. They spent a lot of time talking about Galactic Star Cruiser, which I will take what they say with a grain of salt, because they like talking about how good they are doing and not necessarily about how bad people are talking about this. That Star Tours announcement at the end of the panel was incredible. The fact that we will be going to new places that we haven't seen yet, new places that we might never see in a screen. They'll create worlds for this ride alone, I think is really special, because it's a massive galaxy. Tell us more stories as we go through it in any form you can. And the fact that this ride will have specific stories that you can only experience by riding it, I think is really special.
Yeah, it makes the ride that much more special is what I was going to say. I think to be able to tell those stories and to see those places in the ride. And that's the best part of Star Tours. They're leaning into the idea that they can show new worlds and take you on new adventures there. Whereas the Millennium Falcon, they can definitely do that. That's I think an opportunity down the line. Rise of the Resistance, that's Rise of the Resistance. You know what I mean? Like, that is a ride that is set in that sort of story and told. And, if they wanted to do anything else, future or past, they would have to retrofit it into the existing layout, right? But, you could go on a different adventure in the Millennium Falcon. And, again, it's just this idea of, like, as you said, Darcy, how you experience the level of storytelling through the ride experience. I think that's absolutely great.
Super stoked for all of that, and to see what new characters we might get walking around the parks as well. I think they've gotten a little bit... nothing around food. We did get to see a picture of some Ronto wraps, which made me very hungry. But, we did get a sweet, playlist number 2 of Rex's music from Oga's Cantina, which is out May the 4th. And we got the playlist a little bit early. And Justin, don't worry, we got you a code, so don't worry about that.
Nice.
We also got Gaia's music is also going to be coming out May 4th. Gaia is the performer on the Halcyon of the Galactic Star Cruiser. And we got a sweet poster, which, Darcy, you were saying looked very Cream-esque.
Oh, yes. It's straight up 60s, 70s psychedelic rock poster vibes. Bright colors, like super, super trippy, but still incredibly Star Wars.
Oh, that sounds great.
I mean, I'll give it to them. At least Gaia seems very interesting.
Yeah, the Galactic Cruiser, it's a shame that it's not necessarily doing as well, but I think they put a lot of money into it, and they're expecting a lot of people to pay money, and it's not a return on investment. They're already discounting trips there. So, and apparently even the experience itself is just it's not entirely the Star Wars experience that people had hoped.
Well, I can't wait to go there someday after 2025 when we've recovered financially from both this trip and that one, and hopefully can afford to go on to the Halcyon when it's been, battle tested. I think that's one of the best parts, is that if you wait, it's going to get better. We did get an 11 a.m. Panel on the final day. We managed to get into the standby line, which it was very difficult, but we managed to do it for the Bad Batch panel. Yeah. Darcy and I got there for about 6:20 in the morning and just barely made it through onto the celebration stage. And on stage was supervising director Brad Rao, head writer Jennifer Corbett, executive producer Athena Portillo, and of course the Bad Batch themselves, D. Bradley Baker, and voice of Omega, Michelle Ong. The love these fantastic people have for not just Star Wars, but Star Wars animation, and for the Bad Batch was palpable. You could feel it in the room. A couple of highlights from the panel specifically. I think it was really lovely to hear Dee, kind of talking about how children have a really great sense of forgiveness. and how that might play out in something that we might sort of come to see between Omega and Crosshair. He mentioned that the education that a child's sort of unclouded mind can sort of deliver to these lessons to their parents is really on highlight.
He's so high level with that. Like he's so dialed in with understanding the relationship of how kids think and how adults think, and I think that helps immensely when you're playing 4 or 5 different fathers to one child. So you know what I mean. So
well, and it was interesting too. There was a brief moment where I'm just trying to find it here, but Michelle had mentioned. I think they said something about, obviously spoilers. If you haven't watched The Bad Batch, we're about to spoil massive things from the final episode of Bad Batch season 2. But Michelle had mentioned something like, she was like, oh, it was really, really sad, learning about that moment with Tech, and that it would be the last time we would see him this episode. And I was like, my ears perked up, and I said, this episode? Interesting.
He's
And
confirmed.
They immediately cut to talking about something else right after that moment. So I'm wondering if she did maybe let a little bit of a slip happen there. No, shout out to Slip as well, the clone who very much is dead. But I did really. I think the entire panel was so.
You were so sure
lovely.
He was dead.
Yeah, well, you know what? We'll have to see.
Now you heard it from Omega's voice.
Yeah,
he's not dead. He's not dead.
Dee's laugh, by the way, in person, sounds like just all the clones laughing. Like all the different clones. You can hear it so much in his voice. And yeah, I just think it was the entire time, the entire moment, just hearing them talk about their favorite moments in the last season. I think one of them was the Ipsium Mine. Michelle was mentioning how the Ipsium Mine episode was her favorite. The kind of the world building, she said, blew her mind, but also with Tech and Omega and growing closer was a really special moment for her.
Yeah, and then it makes that finale that much harder to swallow, especially when you're reading through it. So, again, I think that's probably why we were talking about it in our watch club, why she gave such a, emotional reaction, and it felt like, not acting, it felt like something real that was coming out of the character. I think it goes to show that she got a real relationship with Tech, so it just hit that much harder. But I love that Dee calls out his favorite episode being The Outpost. With Mayday, and
so good.
that story is literally the single. I think it was our favorite as well. Just because of the level of storytelling and character development that you got out of it was just done so well.
And Dee shouted out the animation team, and everyone in the crowd, massive applause for the animation team. And it was so lovely to see, even though none of them were on stage necessarily. It was fantastic to give them their flowers, because this season, and especially that episode, were insane. Insane.
They're killing it. They're killing it with the animation. And it's like that nerdy girl on Twitter who I was talking with, and she was talking about the fact that everything's transitioning from animation into live action. Does that mean that they're going to abandon it? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, there's just they got the announcement of upcoming animated projects, but at the same time, it's like they've invested so much in improving the animation. Like, why stop there? Right? Like, why stop there? And I don't know if we need a movie, right, per se. I actually think that these animated stories work better in episodic content, because look at the weekly conversations we were able to have just to see the market improvement that we collectively agreed upon. Like, they knew how to balance the pacing and the storytelling in season 2 versus season 1. So again, they're learning, they're improving, and I think that there's still more stories to tell in animated medium, and I don't think they'll abandon it. Like, it has been more influential to the growth of Star Wars than anything in theater, in my opinion. So,
well, I mean, it's funny because we were the next day after, or like later on that day, we were hopping in line for another the Visions panel, and behind us, people were talking about how they were upset that it was announced as season 3 being the final season of the Bad Batch, To me, I was just like, I'm not upset about that. That means
perfect.
the animation team is going to focus on another story to tell, because we have Tales of the Jedi confirmed. They are continuing this animation trend, and I don't see them going away from that. So, honestly, if maybe this is going to be a spin-off from the Bad Batch, maybe it's going to be
That's
an
what I was
entirely new
wondering.
story. Either
Yes.
way, the next story that this animation team tells, I will be on it from minute one, because they do such a great job at
Exactly.
bringing this world to life. And,
Yeah.
and again, they've like you said, they have done so much world building in these animated shows that it'd be dumb to just stop that, because
Yeah.
there is so much potential there for
Mhm.
that amazing storytelling.
Well, and we did, as you said, we did get an announcement in and throughout Celebration that yes, Tales of the Jedi will be coming back for a season 2. Stoked for that. But I think it was funny. They got to Jen's favorite moment. She mentioned, she's like, "Yeah, Cody coming back was probably my favorite moment." But what tops that is that the story is not over. They announced a 3rd season, and then Athena was like, "Well, you know what tops that moment of you announcing a 3rd season is that we have a sneak peek for everyone in the audience today."
I
Justin,
can't believe it.
did you find a Reddit thread?
I did
Okay.
not find
Okay.
a Reddit thread with it.
I'm going to
so
give you.
It's like,
I'm not going to. Don't worry. We're not going to give. There's no major spoilers in this teaser because
Of
again,
course, but
it is a
I
now in
found-
production teaser.
right. And I
Um,
also saw. I read a written description of what was shown,
Mm-hmm.
and it does sound like a lot of it is a work in production. And they're saying 2024, which makes me think, is that late 2024, or could we get it around the same time that we got season 3 in January of 2023? Could we get
hope
it
that's
in
the case.
January of 20? I hope so. I think that there's enough time, and you have to think that with the immediacy of knowing that this is their 3rd and final season, they must have been already working on it. Like the stories were already probably submitted, the animations and pre-production designs were already being planned, and take as much time as you need. Just don't rush it. You know what I mean? Because it looks better when there's more time invested.
well,
in the long run.
the tantalizing, the tantalizing, little teases that I'll give you here that we saw. A voiceover from the Emperor saying it's imperative that you maintain this facility. Talking to Hemlock, he's walking with Hemlock, guarded by Imperial guards walking with them, which I think that's the first time we've seen them in red in animation. I think, I could be wrong. We got a new haircut for Omega. One that looked even more sort of fancy. I'm wondering if she's kind of getting that from her sister. Maybe she's getting some influences there. We got to see Omega talking to Crosshair in a prison, so I'm wondering if we are going to get that prison sort of callback to the first season. Fennec Shand is back. We got to see a quick sizzle of Fennec Shand, and it looked like we might have seen Wrecker dropping a bomb into a Sarlacc. And then he has like good, chuckle, which was absolutely fantastic. Darcy, anything before we move on to the final panel that we're going to be covering in this podcast? Anything you wanted to mention about the footage that we got to see of Bad Batch Season 3?
Again, it was still pretty early stuff. It has me really excited. Looks like the characters, some time will have passed
Yeah.
between when we left them off and where we're catching up
Yeah.
to them now. So it's going to be interesting to see that, like the Hunter, Wrecker, and Echo trying to find their way back to where Omega is will be probably the main storyline that we'll get for the first half of the season. So I'm excited, to say the least.
Yeah. I was
So
going to ask you guys because I hadn't seen it, but based on what was being described, it sounded like that time had passed. So it does seem like that, based on the footage that you saw, very much affirms that some time has passed between the events of season 2 and season 3, which is good. I think that helps with telling the story. It'll be interesting to see where exactly it lines up and how much. I don't know if they've given a distinct age to Omega, but some people were saying like Omega looks older now. Like she looks like she's grown up. So
It'll be really interesting to see. Maybe because it is the 3rd season, maybe we do get flash forward situations, something like that. Maybe we get to see a little bit into the future. But speaking of the future, the final panel that we got to see at Star Wars Celebration, Darcy and I managed to get right out of that that presentation, and then right back in line for the Star Wars Visions Volume 2 panel hosted by Amy Ratcliffe yet again. And we got to watch as the various directors and producers from around the globe introduced us to worlds, ideas, and the cultures that they imbued in each of their short films. Star Wars Visions Volume 2 is out on May 4th on Disney+. But let's talk about the panel, Darcy. Was there any highlights for you? And then, of course, that incredible trailer.
I mean, I think just the coolest thing was the fact that they took the time to allow each of the directors to come out and talk about their own short.
Right.
They are so different, in fact, that they are really coming from where they grew up and the culture that they grew up in to tell these stories and how they interpret Star Wars. So it was really neat to see them, again, take the time to shine the spotlight on each of these directors and have them talk about what Star Wars means to them and what they were going for when telling a story through the lens of Star Wars. So that was really awesome. And again, yeah, that trailer had me so stoked. There are so many cool animation styles that we'll get to see in this next season.
Oh, it's going to be so good. That trailer, I think I've watched so many times, and it's funny because we're so close to the series actually coming out, but still it's they just did it. They've done it again. They've found the balance between telling uniquely specific Star Wars stories that have the right balance of that with cultural nuances that make it specific to the regions of where these animation studios are coming from. I think it's such a beautiful marriage of the two, and it really does hone in on this idea. Like, we're talking about like all the stuff, and I think I've said it so many times. Like, it's like my favorite Star Wars this, my favorite Star Wars. This is like the perfect realization of what Star Wars can be outside of the predetermined box of what people think Star Wars is. Like I was saying, fans are so possessive with Star Wars that they think they know what it should be rather than thinking about what it can be, which is why I think Star Wars Visions is a huge success. It really does show you what Star Wars can be outside of everything we expect. I didn't get to see any of the footage, obviously, that you guys probably saw. You guys actually got to probably watch, I think, a short, one of the shorts. Yeah. But the clips, the photos, the designs, the animation, we're getting claymation, stop motion styles in Star Wars, which is awesome, right? Like, I don't know if that's ever been done outside of Robot Chicken, but
Right.
I mean, it was done in the originals. That's how they animated all those monsters.
Well, of course, yes, I know, but I just mean like an animated story, like an animated story told in this style of animation of stop motion, right? Like it's going to open people's eyes beyond just what Star Wars Visions Volume 1 did with anime studios and the different types of anime stories. You know what I mean? It's not just anime studios. It's all like, it's the types of stories that you expect from anime that were kind of imbued in Star Wars there. Here it's like culturally specific stories told through those eyes. And I think it looks fantastic. I already think it's going to be my favorite thing of the year. So
yeah, I mean, you mentioned different mediums and even the idea of kind of using different textures. Gabriel Osorio, for his short, he mentioned that Latin American history was an inspiration for his short, and the characters are made with digital 3D, but they also mix in stop motion, hand painted backgrounds, and then they take those hand painted backgrounds and they're actually scanned in, but then they also used actual plants from the deep of Patagonia in the shorts. In the short film itself, which is such a cool idea to really give it that real rich look, and what an incredible, like, some of these moments of seeing some of these characters who are just using the Force and are overtly powerful, even though they're just children. Or Cartoon Saloon, they did Wolfwalkers, from Ireland, and the fact that getting
Very
to see Paul, who's from Ireland, get to stand there so proudly and mention how 95% of the characters except for the villain have Irish accents in Star Wars is awesome, and I'm so
That's
excited.
where the Huxes are probably from, right?
That-
they're all probably from that region.
That seems like it. So cool. Park Hyung-gun, the director of Journey into Darkhead, giving us the prehistoric war between the Jedi and the Sith. Is really, really kind of a neat idea. And the fact that the original Korean voice actors for Leia, Obi-Wan, and Kylo Ren are actually going to be in the Korean dub of the short
Sick.
is
Sick.
really, really, really cool. And again, it's just, it was so heartwarming to get to see these directors and these creators and these talented people on stage just talking about the things that they love, talking about the inspirations from their own lives, growing up around the world, and getting to kind of see them bring this stuff to Star Wars is absolutely phenomenal. And it was really heartwarming even after the panel had concluded. They're all there. Their families are there. They're celebrating with their families. Aardman Studios, which we did get to watch the short I Am Your Mother, which was fantastic. I teared up a little bit, about a young Twi'lek girl and her mom. And that's kind of the most that I will give you, but it is incredibly heartfelt and endearing. We actually were in the crowd, and right behind us were the team from Aardman who actually animated the short. And so it was just really cool because, again, as I mentioned at the beginning, this celebration felt bigger and smaller all at the same time. This was one of those moments where, we're standing in a really big crowd of people, but a lot of those people are the people that actually make Star Wars. And it really brought it close together, and it was really, really delightful to see. Darcy, is there anything else you want to mention before we wrap up?
I mean, on top of all the great, live action and animated content we talked about, they announced the next phase of the High Republic. We're getting 3 more books exploring the ancient, or not the ancient past, the not so ancient past, I guess, of the Jedi. Then they've also talked about a couple, tabletop role-playing games coming out soon from either Funko or from, I think Fantasy Flight is doing Shatterpoint. There's a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipeline for Star Wars fans, and it's not just something you have to watch. You can read, you can play, you can do anything, and it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan. That's all I can say.
Yeah, all around experience, right?
Darcy, coolest thing you bought at Star Wars Celebration? Go.
Oh, geez.
I know, you bought a lot.
I bought a lot. I don't know. I got a lot of awesome art. This year they had the art show floor was great, and we got to talk to a lot of the artists there. And I think that was the takeaway, is the fact that we did it at Fan Expo. We like to talk to the people who love the stuff and create content or art around the things we love. And this was just the Star Wars version of that, where we got to talk to several artists and really just say thank you so much for doing these characters justice or painting these characters in a new light or picture. And it was delightful to just talk to people about what we love. Absolutely
wonderful. And the creativity of some of these folks, absolutely phenomenal. I think I bought a poster. It's just Grogu eating a bunch of stuff. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. And then I think for me, besides the Trapper Wolf mini bust, which is awesome, from Gentle Giant, Star Wars Timelines, as an early release from DK Publishing, I think is absolutely fantastic. It's going to be, I can't wait to dive into it and read through it and see these timelines actually fleshed out. But I do think it's going to be a volume 1. We're going to get a volume 2 a volume 3 as they start to add more. But I am so excited to sort of nail down, okay, how old is this character when this happens, right?
It's going to be the encyclopedia that we would go to even during our conversations. It'd be like, let's refer to the Star Wars timeline, if we will, for a moment, and
so good.
Pull that up and find the pages. Yeah, I bought the Trapper Wolf online. I was able to get it thanks to you guys for helping out with that, and you guys picked me up some stuff, so I still get to enjoy and appreciate.
We got some stuff you don't even know about, Justin. So get ready.
Oh my God! And I that sort of love. You guys know, if I was there, I'd probably be with you every single day. We would be doing it all together, and then we would be complaining and our feet hurt and I'm tired, but we would be enjoying it and freaking out together. So I was glad though we had the group chat and we were able to talk. I will say though, there is, I was listening online to some people, they're talking about, and these are obviously people that are doing couch con, bed con, whatever the hell it is. Could there be an opportunity to stream these things exclusively through Disney Plus for the audience. Maybe you pay a premium to actually get it. I would. I
like
personally
that
would.
idea.
I'd pay $100 and something dollars. So that means that I have access to it. I have to give only like a TV. Like you could really narrow it down. TVs can only have permission, but at the same time, like I get that the footage that they're showing is made for the con, right? But it does get circulated. It didn't stop people from being able to see it on the Reddit threads. At that point, it's just like, well, why not just put something out? Do you know what I mean? So that you can at least control and that those fans out there can enjoy it. And you know, Disney Plus is built with the setup that you can't screen record, you can't grab things. You can take pictures
can
of
record
your
video
screen.
with your phone, and no security guard is going to stop you.
For
You know what I'm
sure,
saying?
but at the
I
same-
think that's
yeah.
the only stopping point.
For sure, but at the same time, then don't be so precious with that, right? Like it's not necessarily needing to worry about that because it is going to get out either way. It's as it's proved, and then you have to do the due diligence of take it down, right? So it's like why not just make it like the experience for you guys that are there is being there, is popping off with those fans, is seeing it, is hearing all of these conversations and live, in the moment, right? So there is a value to that experience that you're paying for, and then everything else outside of it, walking the floors and getting into everything else. So, I think there's an opportunity. There is an opportunity, I would say, and maybe it'll be explored at some future event.
Maybe in some timeline. But speaking of timelines, we got to wrap up. And speaking of Star Wars wrapping up, Celebration wrapping up, they wrapped up by mentioning, yes, Tokyo in 2025. Amy Ratcliffe was on stage and kind of mentioned that out there. And then also shout out to DJ Elliott and Atomic Blonde holding down the fort at the Celebration stage. And DJ Elliott for bringing me up on stage, by the way. I don't even know if we mentioned this. It was on the Instagram. I got to play a dope Star Wars posing game. And I posed as certain characters from the Bad Batch, got a good play to the crowd kind of moment, which was really, really fun. And I won. So, it was a pretty great moment for me.
There you go. That's your celebration.
That was my celebration, yeah. But listen, until we get to Tokyo in 2025, and Justin, I'm going to force you to come to that one. That is it. We hope you enjoyed This Week in Geek recap of Star Wars Celebration 2023. If you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts on this week's news or any of the content we cover, I'm going to get Justin a VIP pass so he can join us in Tokyo next year. And I'm also going to send it over to him to let you know how you can reach us by holo message.
Oh, yeah, VIP pass all the way. They can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or they can reach out to us on Twitter @geekcentricyt. Or check out our Instagram. As Nate mentioned, we got some stories on our Instagram from the event and, the travels of Darcy and Nate. So you can check and see. It's on our highlights for stories at We Are Geekcentric.
And you don't need a VIP pass to do any of that, by the way. It's completely free.
Not at all. Yeah,
and it's absolutely incredible content. At least I think so. Keep in mind, we have a ton of other great episodes covering the latest in movies, TV shows, and games, including our recent spoiler-free reviews for the Super Mario Bros. Movie, Dungeons and Dragons. On Netflix, there's a movie called Kill Boksoon that we reviewed. We also have interviews with a lot of the folks who were in attendance at Star Wars Celebration, including Hayden Christensen, Deborah Chow, Denise Gove, Kyle Solar, Adria Arjona, Genevieve O'Reilly, Rick Femiua, Katie Sackhoff, Brad Rao,
crazy,
Jennifer
actually.
Corbett, and D. Bradley Baker. All of those are available to listen on our podcast, on your podcast service of choice, or you can watch them over on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. Go give those episodes a listen, a like. Be sure to comment. Leave a 5-star review if you don't mind. It's nuts how many people from Star Wars that we've gotten to talk to.
Yeah, so good.
I can't
More
wait.
to come, too. More to
yes,
come.
we do have some more Star Wars coverage coming soon. Some of those things that I mentioned on May the 4th, we will be definitely talking all about. Darcy, Justin, thank you so much for joining me for today's galactic-sized recap episode. And as we say, love ya.
Laters.
Peace.